All right, welcome back to Gibby Knows Sports Podcast. This is episode 2. I'm your host, Big Gibby. I'm joined by my brother, Little Gibby.
What's up, guys?
Uh, we're going to talk college football playoff round 1. We're going to talk a little bit about the quarterfinal matchups and the bowl games that are coming up on New Year's Day and New Year's Eve. But first, before we get going, I'd like to shout out real quickly to our sponsor for the video, Mr. Chad Bear Family and Associates. This sponsorship comes with a bit of a caveat. I have to talk about Oklahoma football for a little bit, since he is a big Oklahoma fan. Seth, I couldn't really think about very many nice things to say when it comes to Oklahoma, but there are two things that stand out to me, and they're both people that I care deeply about that are affiliated with Oklahoma in some way. Number one is a kid that I coached last year that graduated from Bullard High School. He was a football player. He is now attending the University of Oklahoma. Shout out to Ryan Baird. And the second is my boy CD. Seth and I were just at the Cowboy game last night, and he balled again. He's playing through an injury. We know he's an Oklahoma grad, and he's spectacular. We were talking on the ride home about how well he's played through his short career so far. He has the opportunity to be one of the greats of all time in football history on the pace that he's at right now. So that's my talk on Oklahoma football. Let's get right into the college football playoff matchups from round 1.
Okay.
There are a lot of people upset about how the first round matchups ended up. There weren't very many close games. The Texas Clemson game, you could say, was the closest. That was because Clemson made it a little closer late before Texas pulled away again. But the other three were just straight up blowouts, and kind of went in the way that we thought for most of them, with the exception of one. But let's talk a little bit about the first game that we got, which was Notre Dame completely dismantling Indiana. The talk after that game was that Indiana didn't belong, which I don't think is necessarily the case, but Notre Dame definitely showcased that they have one of the best defenses in the country, and Indiana could absolutely not get anything going.
It's one of those things to where the strength of schedule, the resumes that you bring forward to the committee, it's kind of a win-loss situation for the committee. I mean, it's kind of hard when you have the record to back it up. Then you go to strength of schedule. It's kind of hard to compare resumes to resumes when you start going down all the teams, in your main conferences. It's just kind of hard to do it unless there's someone that's scheduling these games for everybody, like a large governing body. You're going to keep having these problems. I wouldn't say it's fair to say Indiana didn't belong. They took care of business what they had to make it. Apparently, you're gonna see this moving forward, especially in this first round. It's kind of like how it was in the 4-team playoff. Usually, you would see a blowout here or there, but Notre Dame took care of business. They look really good. Texas, I mean, everyone that we thought was going to dominate or play good, and the teams that we thought weren't going to play good didn't play good. So,
yeah, I think Notre Dame, specifically in their matchup against Indiana, showcased that they have a great defense, and they're about to go up against Boise State, which we'll talk about the quarterfinal matchups here in a sec. But I was really surprised at how well they played defensively against Indiana's offense.
Yeah.
The second game that we got,
he's going against Georgia.
Yeah. In the second game, we had Penn State against SMU, and that's kind of the same thing. Penn State dominated the game defensively. They scored 2 touchdowns on defense, 2 pick sixes. SMU did not play very well.
That was the one I thought probably didn't deserve a spot. And I just think the athletes are just different when it comes to that level of play, especially between the Big Ten and the Big Ten nonchalant, like, upper launch teams and the SEC teams, like, they're just on a whole nother level as far as athletes. So I think everyone kind of knew that was coming, the blowout. There was a lot of talk before when the playoff did come out, is that Penn State had the easier side of the bracket, who they're fixing to face, and it comes down to athletes. But like you said, Notre Dame, they showed a lot. Now they're fixing the run of the Georgia, so we're going to see that game, how that unfolds. And we're speaking on this side of the bracket. Penn State is going against Boise State. That's going to be a good. I think that's going to be a good matchup. I see Penn State still winning that game, but we're going to see, that running back he's going to have to play good, and I want him to break Barry Sanders' record. So,
yeah, I mean, if Penn State, wins the football game, it's because they didn't let Ashton Genty run all over them. And they've got one of the best run defenses in the nation. And Boise State, I mean, it's been a while since they've faced a defense like this. I mean, you could argue Oregon was the last time that they had played a defense that was on this level. And, I mean, Genty went off in that game. He had 190-something yards and 3 touchdowns, and they still lost. So,
like, 30-plus carries, I feel like, to keep them give him
and
a chance.
And he will. They'll lean on him as much as they can, but if Genty's the only source of offense again for Boise State, then that one could end in a blowout. I mean, I think the line opened up in that game at around 10.5. Yeah, that's what it's at right now, 10.5.
10.5. Crazy.
Which, I mean, it could. The line will probably end up moving before December 31st quite a bit, but that's a pretty big line. It's significant. I just don't see Boise State having the firepower to overcome Penn State's defense.
I don't know why. I mean, I guess it's because how good Notre Dame played in the first game, but the Georgia Notre Dame line is Georgia 1.5.
Yeah.
And I like, if you're betting, I mean, golly, you're only giving Georgia 1.5. I don't see how that is
that's directly related to the fact that they're starting a backup quarterback. It's Gunnar Stockton, and I think especially bettors, professional guys, probably still don't know how to truly analyze his impact on the total offense that Georgia's going to put out.
I would just
if he can't throw the ball vertically down the field, because he's going to get a lot of man coverage from Notre Dame, and they're going to blitz a lot, and they're going to make Stockton beat them through the air, which we haven't seen it from him. That he had some success against Texas, but you could argue most of that stemmed from his ability to extend plays with his feet and some of the quarterback run game that they called in that game late in the fourth quarter. We just haven't seen enough of him to really know what to expect.
I would say Notre Dame and Texas defense are not too far. And if you watch that Texas-Georgia game, this guy held his own. And you can make the argument, like we said last podcast, that Georgia really didn't find their groove until he came in. And he made some big-time plays with his legs, converted some huge third downs. And Georgia still has ETN. I mean, when all fails, dump the ball off. Let him run, But let's go ahead and get to the other side of the bracket with, Texas and the other matchups.
Yeah, so we had Texas-Clemson. Of the 4 games we got this past weekend, that was probably the most entertaining, and that was solely because Clemson made a bit of a comeback there in the second half. Cade Klubnik, I mean, that dude is a baller. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a Texas high school football homer, but I mean, he's a Texas football kid. You could tell he was really excited to play back in his home city in front of a home crowd. And I say home, I mean, he's from Austin.
Yeah.
And he completely balled out. And if it were not for Texas's offense kind of getting back to what they had been earlier in the year, and they were super successful and so efficient through the passing game. They took big shots when they needed to. And then, I mean, like we talked about Saturday, if Texas can get back to running the football, then they were going to roll over Clemson. That's exactly what happened. Wisner and Jaden Blue both, rushed for 150 something yards, over 300 yards as a team rushing. Like that's the recipe for success for Texas moving forward throughout the rest of this playoff.
Yeah, it opens up play action. It opens up screens. When Sarkisian's in his playbook and everything's rolling, he's just on another level. And Klubnik, he was great. He proved that he's fit for that level, and he can play at that level, at a high level. He just needed a little bit more help. I mean, he can't do it all by himself. But let's get into the Ohio State game so we can talk about that.
All right, so we had Ohio State, Tennessee, that last game of the first round, and it was a blowout. And neither one of us really saw that outcome coming.
No.
If we both predicted that if there was going to be an upset in the first round, it was going to be that one. And the team that showed up to play Saturday for Ohio State was not the same team that showed up against Michigan. It was the team that showed up against Oregon earlier in the year and lost by 1 point on the road. Ohio State more than proved to me that they are capable of winning the whole thing if they continue to play offensively the way they played. Defensively, Tennessee did not have an answer for the Buckeyes. But I was just so impressed with the game plan offensively. I don't know if Tennessee had a lot of defensive tells or defensive tendencies, but it just seemed like every single play they schemed them up. I mean, they knew when they were playing zone, they knew when they were playing man. And Ohio State and Will Howard, oh my gosh, dude. Some of the windows and throws he was able to make to wide open guys and fit throws into tight windows. I mean, he balled out. Judkins and Henderson, the running game there was also stand out. I mean, they were super balanced, and they're going into a matchup that I know they've probably been dying for since the first time they played Oregon, and they're actually opening as the favorite. They're a 1.5 point favorite right now over Oregon, which is not insane to me. I mean, if they play the way they played this weekend, the Ducks going to have their hands full.
So, yeah, I'm strictly addressing all of the haters right now on TikTok. If you haven't seen it, we kind of went viral on TikTok. It's currently over, I think, almost close to 8,000 views.
Getting roasted.
100 comments. I'm absolutely roasted on TikTok right now from Ohio State fans. That's why I love sports, and I love especially college sports, is that people have so much pride in it and so much passion that they would just find some little old podcasters like us and just going crazy. I got told F you about 100 times yesterday, on a take that was incredibly bad. And Tennessee did not show play at all, and I probably should have seen that. It's just the last time we saw Ohio State, they played terribly, and I'm not a big Ryan Day fan. But I was proved wrong. Ohio State looks really, really good. Like you said, they're already opening favorites to beat Oregon. And if I'm putting money on it, I might lean a little bit towards Ohio State. If they keep the same game plan and keep the same motivation going, then they'll be really tough to beat for anybody. I just don't believe in Ryan Day. The top to the bottom comes real fast for them. I feel like it's a hit or miss. Ryan Day hasn't really proven that he can win the big games. So sorry, Ohio State fans, please don't come at me for saying that. But you know it. If Ryan Day would have lost this game, they would all be coming for his head. They would really be trying to get somebody else there. But it was a big win, a dominating win. I love the Big Ten versus the SEC. I love how you can have your top Big Ten teams and a top SEC team, and they clash out. You're always going to have one side that's always going to be favored for Big Ten, and one side that's always favored for the SEC. Big Ten obviously won big time, and I honestly hate that it's going to end up being a Big Ten versus Big Ten powerhouse matchup, but that's the format of it, and we're going to get one hell of a game. I feel like with that coming up. Like you said, Ohio State probably should have won the last matchup. I think, but I felt like it came down to coaching at the end. Dan Lanning is a one heck of a coach. But thanks for pushing our video out. You made it go viral. So joke's on y'all. Moving forward.
Yeah, Ohio State fans are ruthless. I found that out this past weekend. But it's like you said. I mean, the reason we love college football is because of the passion that the fan bases have for each of their teams. And if you're not going to come to bat for your team when two podcasters or two random Joes like us, kind of doubt their ability to win that game, and they let us know it, and that's okay. We'll eat our crow. We'll swallow our pride. We're both men enough to know when we were wrong.
Yep.
But I mean, I think that makes for more of an interesting matchup this time around. Now that this is going to be round 2, I think we're in for a really great game. I think that's going to be the best game of the weekend or of that week here in the coming days.
Kind of like the Georgia safe. I mean, the first game, was great, but then the second game was even better. I feel like it's gonna be the same way with the Oregon and Ohio State game, where the second time around it's gonna be even more exciting and more entertaining.
Yeah.
So.
And then the last quarterfinal matchup, we didn't really talk about Texas and Arizona State. Arizona State's coming off of their bye, the Big 12 champ. This is the one that I think could probably get the most out of hand of the weekend.
They're 14. Texas is.
Yeah, it's just it's strength on non-strength. It's Texas's D line versus Arizona State's offensive line that has struggled, pretty much the whole year, and they just haven't beat anybody the caliber of Texas.
No.
The two losses that they have are to superior opponents, and I think Texas is by far going to be the best team they've played all year. I just don't see them having the success of running the football. They're kind of in the same boat as Boise State. If you are able to keep Scatabo from running rampant on your defense, then you've got a good chance of making them one-dimensional, which plays into Texas's hands and in their favor tremendously. And I think offensively, I mean, Texas will be able to move the ball up and down the field on Arizona State's defense.
It's going to be an SMU Penn State kind of feel, I feel like, where as far as just the trenches are going to be won by Texas up front. It's just hard to win games. I saw the SMU quarterback run around for his life, just throwing the football up for grabs because that's all he could do. He had as soon as the ball is snapped, he's got to get out of the pocket. He can't stay. So I see that game going south really fast. I mean, I could be eating crow again, but Texas is 14-point favorites. That's a huge line. 14-point favorites in a playoff game, that's huge. But ultimately, if this game goes away, everyone feels like it's going to go, we're going to get one hell of a matchup between either Oregon and Texas or Texas and Ohio State, which is going to be awesome. Which every college football fan wins on that one. So,
and I think whoever wins that game is the national champion, in my opinion. Whether it's Georgia or Penn State that comes out of the other side, or Notre Dame or Penn, whoever comes out, I think Texas, Oregon, or Ohio State would be highly favored over either of those three teams, even if it's a round 3 matchup between Texas and Georgia, kind of like we predicted the other day. Texas would still be heavily favored in that game, I would believe.
I still got faith in Georgia, unfortunately, but I do. But I need to see them play. If they take care of Notre Dame like the way I think they're going to take care of them, even with the backup, then I'm gonna be hard to persuade them if they're going to be stopped or not. I have so much I have so much faith in Kirby Smart. I think he's just brilliant, and I think they got better athletes. But we'll see. We'll see.
Yeah, and then just one quick note. I just was thinking about with Texas, especially. And kind of like we said the other day, I think the only way Texas loses this game is if they are not looking at Arizona State. You know what I'm saying? If they're looking ahead at Oregon or Ohio State, they've got to focus on winning this game, treat this game like it's the national championship, and then worry about who the next opponent is the next round. And I'm confident that Steve Sarkisian will have His guys ready to play. They'll be focused. They know what the end goal is, but you can't overlook anybody, especially in a quarterfinal, of a playoff matchup. I don't care who it is. But that's my only worry with Texas this week or this next game. But I think they'll take care of business.
What they need to do is they need to dominate the game and keep momentum strong. So when they go to the next game, they got the momentum on their side still. Because this Oregon and Ohio State game could be a bloodbath. They could kill each other out there trying to win this game. So that's on the side of Texas, in my opinion, as a Texas fan. You got Ohio State and Oregon going after each other. If you take care of business like you're supposed to with Arizona State, go in there, try to get as healthy as possible, momentum on your side, let the two big dogs, knock each other off.
Yeah, no, most definitely.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the college football roundup from this past weekend. Didn't get very many great games, but I think we're going to get some pretty good ones in the quarterfinal matchup. But let's kind of talk a little bit about the overall college football playoff. There's been a lot of chatter about, what should change with the format. And I think most fans would agree there needs to be some changes. The thing that I would like to see the most moving forward is that anytime you have 12 teams involved and they're all fighting for one thing, that's a national championship, I think you need to rank them from top to bottom, regardless of what championships they've won, of what conferences they've won. You rank the 12 best teams that you think are the best 1 through 12 and play it out from there. Your top 4 teams get buys if you keep the same 12-team format, and then you reseed after the first round like the NFL does.
100%.
And I think that would fix a lot of problems. You can still place an emphasis on winning your conference, but I think we're going to stop seeing, a team like SMU who didn't have a fantastic schedule, didn't have a lot of, ranked wins. They play in a conference championship. They have a chance to prove themselves. They lose. I'm sorry, dude, you lost. Like, you didn't win the big one. You might miss it. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think there needs to be just an overall ranking system, and we're not giving so much credit to people that play for a conference championship, because you are going to lose out on teams like Alabama, South Carolina this year that kind of missed the boat. They were really close, but just to not win enough games to get in. A lot of people thought they had a better resume than SMU.
Joe Clatton and Lane Kiffin were going at it on X, on Twitter, because Lane Kiffin felt like, Ole Miss should have been in there instead of SMU at least. And he's got a point, but Joe Clatton's got a point as far. Well, when you had a chance to win, you didn't get done. What I feel like is going to happen, I could be stupid about this. I just feel like moving forward in the years to come, they're going to come out with a system and a different governing body for this situation, where it's kind of like the NFL, where they make 2 big conferences like the NFL has, and split up divisions like that within the. Because it's kind of hard to. It's kind of hard to say, well, SMU is on this side. They're in the Big 12 playing these games, and they end up going. Let's say they went 12-1. That 12-1 might be on paper might look better than a 9-2 team or 9-3 team in SEC. Because of the wins and loss.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put them all, if you want to get a chance to play in the college football playoff, these conferences need to get together and figure out how can we get everybody into where we can play each other. Because it just makes us no good when Arizona State's playing Colorado. They're playing Texas Tech. They're playing TCU. But then Alabama's playing Georgia, Texas, Ole Miss, Tennessee, or like a flip side of Big Ten. Big Ten, Ohio State's playing Michigan, Oregon. They're playing all these teams, and it's just Either way you slice it, it's not fair unless they get together and figure out what's the best situation for all these teams that they can play each other. And then I
Yeah.
agree with the seeding. It needs to be like the NFL. It needs to be where like the lowest seed will go play the highest seed. It's not just one bracket and you stay on that bracket. You move where the seeding is.
Yeah. NFL playoff picture, how that's shaping up,
I got
what we kind of expect with that.
One thing to add about Oklahoma and CD Lamb.
Okay.
I think Oklahoma does a really good job on receiver production, obviously with like CD Lamb and stuff like that. And I think CD Lamb proved to me last night again in person, and then the way his attitude's changed a little bit to where he solidified himself as easily no argument. He's the third best receiver in the NFL. He still can't. I give Jetta and Jamar the 1 and 2, but CD Lamb, in my opinion, is like he's the number 3 best receiver in the NFL, hands down.
Yeah.
Hands down. There's not. I don't think it's.
He's top 3 currently for sure.
Top 3, and if his attitude keeps changing the way, because was a little bit kind of cocky, a little selfish, but this year he's kind of proven that he's more of like a team leader role, and I love that. I think that makes him better. It makes everyone around him better. So appreciate the love and support, guys. Like and subscribe to the YouTube.
Like and subscribe. YouTube. We'll post some stuff on TikTok, some YouTube shorts and things like that. We're going to try to keep growing this thing. We're doing this because we love talking about sports. And we'll get into some more topics as the next couple weeks come up to us. There's a lot of great things happening in the sports world, and we'll get into a lot of that stuff in the future.
Yeah.
But from us, our families, Merry Christmas to you guys. Have a great holiday season. It's a great time to be an American because we're getting to see a lot of great football, a little bit more than we've seen in the past. I don't care if they're blowouts. Give me as much college football as you can.
Hey, more football is better than no football.
Yep,
Last night, shout out for the awesome tickets last night because that was an awesome game. So
shout out to my boy Huck hooking us up with some Cowboy tickets.
Yep.
Not going to go to the playoffs, but we'll talk a little bit more about Cowboys football in the future. But yeah, thank you guys again. Much love. Merry Christmas. Peace out.
Guys. See ya.